She asked me, how do I make my child to be confident? How do I bring out my daughter to be eloquent? To freely express herself to the public? Is that what you do?
Yes, absolutely.
I wish I had your number then.
You would refer them. It's not too late, please.
How would you teach them? Live with Simon Chris Makanga. Friends, thank you so much for the great comments that you have given me on the previous videos, and also the words of encouragement, the shares, the subscriptions. Man, thank you so much. Our special guest tonight is a young, intelligent lady. She is a soft skill leadership coach. So we're going to have a conversation about leadership, especially why it does matter in the little ones. Lindzy Byamugisha.
Hi, Chris.
It's a big pleasure to have you on this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Great. I'm looking forward to having a great conversation about leadership. That is my area of interest.
Me too. And you'll be surprised that I'm also ready to learn from you. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. You look so smart.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you're so passionate about soft leadership training for the young ones.
Yes.
What is the difference between soft leadership and the other one is, what is it called? Hard skills. Yeah. What's the difference?
So, for example, soft skills are tangible, right?
Okay.
You'll go to school to learn carpentry, and then you're able to make furniture, tables, and stuff like that. Soft skills, however, on the other hand, are things you might not necessarily be able to see or measure. For example, your ability to communicate, public speaking, people management. How do you relate with other people? Empathy. Are you able to feel someone else's situation and circumstances? Emotional intelligence, right? Do you know how to handle your emotions, or will you just let your emotions overtake
ride you whatever they want to ride you?
Exactly. So soft skills basically is the way you carry yourself. Your ability to write, your ability to speak and communicate.
Are we not born with these skills?
Not necessarily. So you'll find people that are naturally outgoing, right? For example, communication. It's broad. Communication can entail writing. Communication can entail speaking. But not everyone is meant for the stage. However, you'll find that situations or positions might require you to speak before the public, which may not necessarily come easy for people because you probably don't know how to express yourself freely. You have stage fright, and so you will have to learn.
So basically, what you teach the young ones, or the training you conduct with them, is sharpening their ability to speak, how to relate with other people. I like when you talked about emotional intelligence. Currently, I'm reading a book about emotional intelligence, why it does matter more than IQ. That is Daniel Goleman.
Yes.
I love it so much. So what are you telling the young ones about emotional intelligence?
So I think the basis, especially even leadership, but also the basis of soft skills, is you need to first understand yourself and then go on to understand other people.
You must be carrying some scars because you can't speak from nowhere.
Nice one. I see where you're going.
There's a saying that you cannot pick from an empty pot.
Not at all.
You must have poured something there.
Not at all.
That you pick and share with the
others.
little ones.
Yeah.
Share with me about those scars. How did you know that you're going to end up like that?
I'll just say that, I think there's a quote I read recently that says your ministry is where you have, your point of ministry is where you have been scarred, or your point of healing. And I think for me, I grew up in boarding school. I joined boarding school at the age of 7. From 6 towards 7, I was about to turn 7. And my first book is about my experience in primary boarding school. Wait a minute,
you've written a book?
Yes, I have a book.
We're going to get to that.
So I joined boarding school at the age of 7. And what I reflect about in the book is basically what life is like away from home in your formative ages, right? I cannot imagine my nephew, who is 5 years, away from home in a boarding school. They are washing for themselves. they are trying to feed themselves, you're getting up for morning prep. So I kind of like grew up in a sense of independence. But the other thing they don't tell you about some boarding schools is that there is a way you are raised to submit and raised into respect. Like, you can't respond, you can't do this, you can't do this.
You're subjected to a system which
yes,
you can't
there's a
even
system.
say no to.
You can't say no. So literally everything is yes. I think there's a place for respect. I think there's a place for being raised in a way to be submissive. But I think there is also a place for standing your ground and saying, no, I will not do this. This is wrong. But some schools don't give you that. And so I think most of my talent and ability to speak was curtailed at that age. So I grew up a little bit shy, not outgoing. And you realize later when eventually you speak and someone is like, there's something there. So I would say, for me, my point of contact was, I'm a product of mentorship, right? For someone being able to identify and say, I think you're good at communication. I think you're good at this. And then they help you nurture that gift. They help you, they take you into spaces where you're able to grow that gift. So
meaning you had a gift that people realized.
Yes.
And that people helped you nurture it.
Yes, absolutely.
What gift was that?
A friend of mine likes to say a jack of all trades, but I will say I have a thing for training and speaking to people. And I think that's how then it leads me into training, leadership training, and stuff like that. Previously, I would tell people that I speak to others for a living, and people think I am a counselor. But I would like to say I train, right?
So what do you mean by that? Do you mean you're a sanctuary of people's broken hearts?
Not necessarily. I just like to pass on knowledge. Let's put it like that. It's hard for me to know something and not want to share it, especially if it is going to help you grow. I am really big on personal development, and so both for myself but also for others. And I think knowledge sharing is big. If I know something, I am willing to share it. But also for myself, acquiring knowledge is something I'm big on. Learning new skills, sharing those skills. Because I think there's no end to learning. There's really no end to learning.
Sounds like you're not mean.
Are you?
I'm not. And I love speaking to, I don't like to speak to selfish people. I love speaking to selfless people.
Yes.
Why the little ones?
I think when you're young, there's still space for formation. You can still incorporate these things into your learning. It's easier for you to pick up and adapt to that. But also they have time. Which might not necessarily be for the older people. I do not negate the fact that there is room for them to learn at an older age. However, it's easier for them to appreciate it at a younger stage and incorporate it into learning. Because think about it, what does holistic learning look like, right? Apart from physics, science, math, there's a place for that. But I think holistic learning is not only the academic side, it's also personal development. Personal development, of which includes some of these soft skills we're talking about. My ability to introduce myself. Am I self-aware about my emotions? Do I know what triggers me, right? So you'd be shocked to walk into a university class and ask people to introduce themselves, and they have nothing to say.
Well, you remind me of when I was still active in media. I covered a short story of Miss Little Uganda, I think something like that. Then a parent walked to me, and I think she liked how I was interacting with the little ones. And she asked me if I was a parent. I said yes. Then she asked me, how do I make my child to be confident? How do I bring out my daughter to be eloquent, to freely express herself to the public? Is that what you do?
Yes, absolutely.
I wish I had your number then.
You would refer them. It's not too late, please.
So how would you teach them?
So there's modules that we've curated, right? So we go into those phases. So for example, like leadership, you start by knowing yourself. We know the personality types and stuff like that. So for you to be able to know I am sanguine, and the way sanguines react and not the way cholerics react, right? There are those that are naturally born leaders, and so everything is serious. They want everything to the dot, which sometimes may not be the same for sanguines because they like to have fun, right? Everything can be a joking point. So for you to first understand yourself and know that, okay, in certain situations it's easier for me to thrive, and then we go on. So there are different modules for that different age groups. So it's like a curriculum. I wouldn't say curriculum per se, but we've designed a strategy for them, depending on the session or how long it's going to take, because definitely if it's 3 days, it's not going to be the same for someone that's doing a month.
How do you make money?
That's a nice question. One, through public speaking. I am invited to speak or to do training sessions, sometimes individually, sometimes through an organization. There is that. Universities, schools, some entry-level interns. Say if an organization has graduate trainees and they would like you to take them through a session, there is that. But I'm a writer. I write. I write. Yes, I've written a book. I've made money from that. But I write stories, short stories. I write articles. I write reports. I write concept notes. I write proposals. So I make money from that.
One of the vices that we battle with every day as human beings.
Yes.
There are those that were born with, like being selfish, being jealous, being angry, managing our emotions. We all have these things within us.
Yes.
But I think from my own understanding and out of reading, I've come to realize that it's either by maturity that we tend to manage them, or through exposure.
Yes.
That you're able to manage your emotions, you're able to manage your selfishness, you're able to manage your anger. How would you deal with your emotions? It's a struggle.
Very big struggle. But again, I think it goes back to knowing yourself. For example, if you get into a situation where you're very angry, and you know that if I start to speak right now, hell is going to break loose, or I am going to beat someone, right? So if you know that, I think you would rather withdraw for that session, for that beat, and come back when you have processed, right? And I think there is a place for us to process, because usually I think in the heat of emotions, you're not able to think straight. But if you withdraw fast, right?
You give yourself
time to think and say, okay, what led to this? Could I have contributed to it? Which is something that most of us don't want to think about, because you're always thinking about, no, it's Chris that did this, it's Chris that did this, and not myself. You're not thinking about how you contributed to this. So I think withdrawing a little bit gives you time to think in perspective. And say, okay, this is how it started. This is what might have caused this. I might have said this. And then you're able to revisit the conversation and come back and say, okay, this is how I felt. This is how you made me feel. I might have said this. So I think also understanding that when you're about to blow up, it's okay not to always speak, right? Because sometimes you will say things that you will regret. And those are not things that people will always forget. Yes, we will move on, but for some time, I'll probably think, every time I see Lindzy, this is what I'm going to think about.
So what inspires you for you to wake up every morning and the only thing you're thinking about is to get this thing out of yourself and impact it to the little ones? What inspires you?
Interesting. I'll say two things. I once read somewhere that how do you wake up every day and choose to be mediocre? I don't want to be mediocre. And I think there's just, there's something about footprints in people's lives. I know that comes from sacrifice. I know that comes from engaging with other people. And I just don't want to be mediocre, Chris. Think about it. Imagine you wake up every day and you're hoping to be average. Would you want to be that?
Out of so many options.
Exactly. Why?
Out of so many, amen.
Why?
We are surrounded by so many options. That's the truth.
Yeah. Why?
But what limits us?
I think we think that we are not good enough. We think we are not good enough. And that's why I've said we think. And yet, I think the second thing I was going to say is God, right? I am a Christian. I believe in God. And there's a confidence that comes from knowing that one, this life is not yours, but we are meant to give of ourselves. Right? You're not serving yourself. You're not here to serve yourself. You're here to serve other people.
But not everybody thinks like that.
That's true.
And I'm wondering how you opened your mind to start thinking like that.
Because let me tell you, I am not serving myself. Let me tell you, I am here on a mission. Everyone here is on a mission. Ideally, we are all supposed to be on a mission.
Okay, let me put it straight. How did you discover your purpose?
Community. I am big on community. Again, I will say that we are not called to live in isolation. No man is an island. You will need something, you will need help. But I have also found that most of the things I have found myself doing have been affirmations from people. But also, like I said, I am a product of mentorship, right? So someone identifying a gift, and you're kind of like shadowing them. You learn from them. They will rebuke you in love, and you will grow, So community is very, very big. Within community, you're able to make friends like you, like-minded people, people who are on the same journey. So we are not going wherever the wind blows. You know that we are going to point A, and our eyes are on point A. But you're also going to find people that will rebuke you in love. They will tell you, I think you would have done this better next time, right? But
and
genuinely, and out of love. Exactly.
Let's pick to your book.
Yes.
Why did you write the book?
Why? Initially, I had wanted to write the book in my Essex vacation.
How did you name it?
Out of Sight.
Out of Sight.
Yes. Out of Sight.
Beautiful title.
Thank you.
So what was running in your mind?
Out of sight, out of mind, right? I speak about my experience in boarding school. They're all short stories. Each chapter is a short story about different experiences in primary school. I write particularly primary boarding school.
Okay.
And so let me tell you, by the way, looks are very deceptive. And most of these schools look beautiful on the outside. And so that is why I wrote Out of Sight, right? You will walk into a gate. The buildings are nice, right? The teachers are nice. They're speaking very well. But once the parent walks out of that gate, you really don't know what happens within the walls of that school. So that is why I called it Out of Sight, because it's not things that you will ideally see. And so I just write stories. I'll just share one. I think I was at a stage in my life where I was looking back on school experiences. And part of the questions I had was, but did we really have to? Did we really have to suffer? I think there are other ways to discipline. I think there are other ways to teach manners. And not necessarily through violence, for lack of a better word. And so I said, no. At least for children that age, this is not what they should be going through, right? Because you see, when you read also research, there is just research that has been done. One, there is that mental torture of I have left home at a young age. So there is a sense of independence from an early age. From 6, someone is just like, I'm meant to fend for myself, right? So there's that torture that's just messing with them, right? but then they are away from home. So there's that kind of separation of, I'm away from my mother, I'm away from my father, I'm away from my siblings. And then you go to school and they are beating you excessively. And so there's that sense of maybe they don't love me, right? Is beating bad? Not necessarily, especially if you're disciplining. But are there other ways to discipline a 6-year-old? Do you get where I'm going? So when you try to weigh the options, must I take my child to boarding school at 6? Must I, right? Is it necessary? And so I was just thinking that maybe if I shared my story, parents would learn. People like me who have been to boarding school at a young age will learn and make better decisions. Let me tell you, Chris, if you ask me right now, I don't know what I will be 10 years from now. But what I know, I am not taking my children to boarding school.
Is that called?
Yes.
So how do people get... okay, you wrote it to the parents.
Ideally. Yeah.
It's for the parents.
Yes.
So how do they access this book?
I have the copies. There's a copy on Amazon if you want Kindle. At only 30,000. So they can read the story.
Honestly, Lindzy, it feels like it's good content. I'm trying to imagine it's a battle that most parents go through, especially, and let's be honest about this. One of the primary reason as to why most parents take their children to boarding school is to create space.
Of course.
At home.
Of course. But they don't have time. They don't have time. Parents don't have time. And I understand it. Think about it, right? An average Ugandan, we are not talking about people that earn so much. An average Ugandan, say they have 4 children. They are working a 9 to 5, right? 9 to 5. Some of which are 7 to 10, 7 to 7. Do you get? Like the hours are long. You're not sure they have a car. Let's even start from there. So you don't know how they're going to handle that daily commute. But think about even the traffic, which means waking up as early as 4 a.m.
True.
Schools need you to be at school by 7 or 8.
That's true.
Wake up early. Meanwhile, that's the same reporting time for work. You have 4 children. Take them, pick them up. Take them, pick them up. For how long? Right? Not everyone or not every household can afford to have a stay-at-home mother. You know? And so the only alternative
is a boarding
school.
So why wouldn't you say no to that? I mean, why wouldn't you say yes to that?
Not everybody's
school
school is
like
bad.
A valid reason to send the child to school.
It's very valid.
So why would
but
you
I think
say
we
no
need
to
to
it?
choose our poison, right? You need to choose what you can settle for. Because you see, every decision you make, you're losing something. It
Or
might be
gaining
short term.
something.
Exactly. It might be short term. It might be long term. So I think for every decision that we make, we need to be able to settle and the consequences. And will I be able to live with these consequences, right? And so not every boarding school is bad. Let's just start with that. I think then we need to be involved in the decisions that we are making and say, okay, this is the school I am taking them to. How do they punish children? What are they eating? Where are they sleeping? What are the practices like? Would I like my child to be raised in such a value system? Do they align with my value systems? And that's something I think not very many parents take keen interest in. And so you're just taking because Banange, this school is the best in
the region.
Best. Let's just best. Yeah.
So, what far are you telling the parent? Because you're now helping us to make a valid decision on whether to take my child to school, to boarding school, or keep my child at home. Yeah.
Like I mentioned a little earlier, right? Is every decision you make, there's something you're losing and there's something you're gaining. For example, if you take your child to boarding school and you're not involved, there is being involved, not the involvement of paying school fees and the requirements. There's an involvement of you're a part of the child's life. I am constantly having conversation with them. I am trying to input something into how they are growing and affect their thinking, how they are thinking, their value system and stuff like that, and not leaving the sole challenge to the teachers and to the matrons and to whatever that is. And so you see, that is why you will find that sometimes there is a major disconnect between children and parents. Because even when they come back for the holiday, you're busy. And that's like, what, 3 weeks? And they'll go back to school. And so you'll find children that cannot communicate with their parents. And so they're constantly lying. They're constantly stealing from them because they want to get money from them. You do not know what they're learning. And so, but if you are engaged with a child, then they're able to tell you when something goes wrong.
True.
They will tell you, I was at school and ABCD happened.
True.
How do I go about that? If you don't have that relationship with your child, you're never going to know what happened. You're never going to know who did what. There are all these kinds of vices in schools. You will not know who was exposed to what. You will not know which teacher went overboard. You will not know which friend went overboard. And so if they cannot confide in you as a parent, I think there's going to be a mismatch.
When you were speaking here, you told me that in 10 years, you don't know what will happen, but you're sure your child will not go to boarding school.
Absolutely.
Meaning you don't have any child now?
No, I don't. Not yet.
Not yet?
Yes.
How would you deal with the temptation of men?
Woo!
Hey,
Chris.
Okakubye. Woo! I can only imagine.
Scripture tells us that he will provide a way.
Been an scapegoat. Scriptures have suffered.
Yeah. That there will always be a way and no temptation, that we cannot handle. No temptation will come our way that we will not handle. I will say 2 things, right? First is to know that it's normal. It's very normal to have feelings or to do what, but also if they approach you, right? It's normal. We are all human beings. There's even no way for us to run away from that, right? The second is accountability.
To who?
And I will say godly accountability.
Godly accountability.
One, to God, but also to someone else, right? I am big on accountability. And I will say that part of what has held me right now is there are moments, yes, you will struggle and you've prayed. Nayenga,
Techigwa.
Right? But you're going to be able to talk to someone, and I've had that space where I have a friend, a mentor who's like, they are married. They are Christian, so values are the same.
But Lindzy, let's be realistic here.
No, let me tell you.
Let's be realistic.
No, you're not telling everyone, but let me tell you, where you're able to speak things in black and white and say, I have fallen. The truth is I have
Unless
fallen.
if you're saying you're committed somewhere.
I say I have fallen. No, for real. Or you call them and say, let me tell you, there's this guy who is disturbing me. Tukoze tutya. Banange tukoze tutya. Netoka tukola our plan.
You analyze,
Atia
you
katoda.
criticize.
Or you vayo.
I can only imagine that conversation.
Yeah. It's
You
hard.
meet physically on the phone, like.
It's hard. It's hard.
So you've subjected us men to a vetting.
No, not that. And I will say, not to everyone. There's just that person, that you have given authority to ask the hard questions in your life, right? Yeah. So this is not conversations I'm having with everyone. I'm not going to meet someone by the road and say, let me tell you, there's this guy.
No, I mean that person.
Yes.
That closest
So you have
person.
given them authority to ask the hard questions, Someone else might ask me and I will not respond to them. But if they asked me, how did it go with person A? You're going to have an answer for them because you have given them that authority to speak to you, especially in that line. And it's going to be hard. Sometimes you'll say, I'm not ready to talk about it. Give me time. Right? And I think we need to have the ability to say it in black and white. Let me tell you, do you know that sin thrives in isolation? Or when you hide it?
Sin.
Yes. Or temptation,
Hides?
for that say. thrives.
Thrives in isolation.
You know, when people don't know,
Elaborate
you're
more
going
on
to
that.
struggle more.
Mm-hmm.
If there is no one holding you accountable, Chris, you're going to struggle more.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. How do you deal with the disappointment?
Let me tell you, I think one of the hardest things is being a Christian.
And it's the sweetest thing as well.
Yes, exactly. It's hard to balance. I keep telling myself, because recently I was disappointed. You know, when you've put in your all, and you've put in your all, and then there is a promising something. I had applied for something, and everything was promising. And on the last stage is when they dropped me.
Oh,
I
so
was
sad.
shattered. You know, when you've seen this opportunity and it's going to change your life, I was shattered.
That's like dreaming when you have money and you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I'm
I
on
am
the bed.
It's me.
Sorry.
Yeah. I was shattered. I was shattered.
How did you come out?
You have to come out, my friend. I think one thing we can learn from Job is that regardless of what he went through, he did not curse God. And I think we need to be slow on God. You've done this, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this, you've not done this. He doesn't owe us anything. And I like to tell myself that regardless of what happens, God is still on the throne. Regardless of what happens, God is still King of Kings. Regardless of what happens, you know. And if this has not happened now, there is a plan, there is a purpose, you know. And I have been going through a season where we're learning about being restored, the God who restores. And one thing that really stood out for me is that no pain in the hands of God is wasted. Nothing. And that's why I was telling you, I think there's such a thing as waiting, right? You cannot diligently serve the Lord and he puts you to shame. It may not be in the timing that
So that's
you
how
want.
you self-motivated
Let me
yourself.
tell you, yes, of course you're sad. Inside you know, God is God. Like, you're trying to believe. But you see, also you have to move on. You have to move on and look for other opportunities.
So where is the difference between you thinking like God is in it and then you thinking or realizing the possible mistakes you did that could have led you there?
Yeah, I think there's always a place for improvement. But there are circumstances where, for example, I wrote back to them asking them, what did I do wrong so that I can do better? And they said they cannot tell me that information. So for instances like that, I'm like, God allowed it to happen.
You must be such a justice hunter.
Let me tell you, I wrote back to them and I said, I would like to know where I went wrong so that I am able to improve, you know. I think there's places for us to learn and know, okay, I will do it better. And then there's places to submit ourselves to God and say, okay, maybe it's not the right time, but God is going to do it again. I might have not done mistakes in this ABCD. Let me try to align them. Let me try to, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, you teach the young ones how to speak, how to emotionally control themselves, how to manage those vices that we talked about, selfishness, bitterness, anger, pride. I'm sure that's what keeps you busy with them.
Yes.
Speak to me. Basing on what we have been talking about, where is my area of improvement?
Oh, wow. I think something I'm also big on is storytelling. And that's an industry you're in. I know and I believe in the power of storytelling. Every story deserves to be told. I have seen your YouTube channel. I have seen, you know, profiling people and their journeys. And I think there is something to learn from everyone. I think for me, my prayer for you is for you to remain focused. For you to remain focused on why you started this. I think this is not a conversation we've had on why, you know, and how you select your people that you get to host. But I think one of the things that will keep us going, and I think will keep you going, is to know your why. And I think you were mentioning that. Know your why, know where you're going, why these people, why these stories. And I think then that will give you direction on where you want to go, who you want to reach out to. Yeah. But I think you can never go wrong with stories. Yeah.
Do you have any question for me?
Why?
Why what?
Why? Why this? Why stories? Why conversations or chatting with Simon
Why?
Chris Makanga? Yeah.
Okay, why? Why are you here?
Yes.
In a nutshell.
Yes.
Okay, I believe 100 years, you and I won't be here.
We shall be in heaven.
We shall be, wherever we shall be.
In heaven.
In-
I don't know about you. Me, I'll be in heaven.
Okay, but I believe 50, 100 years from here, most of us won't be here, but there would be people living.
Yeah.
And I believe this is to help them shape their way of thinking,
Yeah.
understand there were people living here.
Yeah.
This is how they thought.
Yeah.
Pick something from them. The same way we are picking from our forefathers,
Yeah.
the likes of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah.
If they hadn't lived, probably wouldn't be. Okay, life would be a bit hard.
Yeah.
So I also come from that background. I also believe that everybody has a story.
Absolutely.
Everybody. I have told this a couple of times how me and my wife went to Ginger, and I was speaking to a security guard, and I asked him why he's holding a gun. Oh no, I asked him, how do you feel when you have a gun?
Yeah.
He said, I feel like I'm in prison. I'm like, oh,
Interesting.
I thought I was safe,
Yeah.
but now you feel like you're in prison. I was like, wow, that's a good story. So I believe your story is an inspiration to so many other young ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you're speaking to the little ones.
Yeah.
Whatever seed you are planting there is the same seed you have planted here, and it's going to germinate
Amen.
in so many other young ones,
Amen.
and even the elder ones.
Amen.
So I must say you're doing well. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank
Now,
you for
before
having
you
me.
look into that camera, we have some rapid questions. It's
Okay.
not a courtroom. Choose to
Okay.
say pass.
Okay. I love it. I love it. Please.
So now, okay, your guilty pleasure. What's your guilty pleasure?
Pass. I think I like stepping on dry leaves.
Hey,
It's very random.
interesting.
But that crack,
So rare.
that crack
Makes you feel nice.
makes me feel nice.
What don't people know about you?
What don't people know about me? That's a hard one. Because I feel like people know different versions of me.
Uh-huh.
What don't people know about me? I think I'll pass.
You
It's a hard
pass.
one.
It's
Not
a
because
hard
I
one.
don't know,
Uh-huh.
but I feel like different people know different versions.
Ah,
Not that I am a camouflage,
Uh-huh,
but yeah.
okay. Interesting. What do you see when you look into the mirror?
I see a leader. I see a lady on a mission to change this world. I'm not very certain how yet, but I know that I am not meant for small things.
What makes you cry?
What makes me cry? What makes me cry? I think when I visit someone on their deathbed or in a hospital and they are going, they are really going. Like you can tell, they also know.
So sad.
It makes me, and usually, at least for the ones I have observed, they usually have regrets. And for me, I think it makes me cry because I'm just like, may I not have any? May I be ready to go when I am going? Yeah, I just don't like being in that environment because then
that's
I
a sad
don't know.
moment.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Like, if I walk away, like then you have to stay because if I walk away, they'll think I'm running away from them. If you stay, do you get what I'm saying? Yeah.
It's a sad scene, eh?
Yeah, it is a sad one.
Are you short-tempered or even-tempered?
Short, but you won't know because I won't act. I will withdraw. I will withdraw. Yeah.
That's how you deal with anger.
Yeah, I keep quiet and come back when I have calmed down. I think I easily get angry. However, what I have tried to master is not to act on it. Yeah, I will keep quiet. And then
What irritates you the most?
Small talk.
Small talk.
Yeah.
Mine is lack of common sense.
Small talk. I just can't bear someone telling me, "Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you?" all the time. I'm just like, move on to the next thing. If you've come to ask for something, ask for it and go.
Aye. Are there people who think that you're fierce?
I don't think so.
Are you easygoing?
I wouldn't say so.
Are you approachable?
Yes, but some people would disagree. But yes, I am. I am.
Okay. Your best childhood memory?
Oh. Wow. My best childhood memory. I'm going to think. I used to have an auntie. She passed on. And one of the things she would tell us is, today she had days, particular days, she would take us to like the shop, the supermarket, and say, pick whatever you want.
Wow.
You guys, being a child is fake. And guess what?
Ooh.
We'll just
That's
pick
an
like
open
a
check.
Yeah, it's an open check. But you see, when you're a child, you're not thinking about those things. You pick something for 500, you pick what? But I like, you're just picking cheap things. But I just like that she did it frequently. So there was that anticipation. When next are we going? When next are we going? And I think, that was one of them.
That was nice. One that should spoil someone.
Yeah.
Now, look into this camera. And you're going to speak to let's speak to the little ones.
Okay.
Who are going to be watching this. Or this time round, share with us some wisdom. What makes you different?
Yeah. Hi. You're probably wondering, maybe you're stuck, or you're trying to figure out life. I will say that you can never figure out life. There's a book that I once read, and I don't know, the character says, if you're able to see the step right in front of you, you may not be able to see the whole staircase, but if you're able to see the first step in front of you, take that. And I think that life in itself is a leap of faith. You don't have to have it figured out now. I think when I was younger, I would say by this age, trust me, I have moved past all those ages and have done nothing. But be encouraged, right? Life does not exist in an abundance of possessions. I will say that. So you do not necessarily have to have what everyone else has, but have a purpose to live. Earlier I mentioned that don't wake up and be mediocre. Wake up and be the best version of yourself. Give of yourself to other people. Serve others. And I think for me, I have realized that I am here to serve others. And if you're like me, God at the center of it all.
Wow. Thank you so much, Lindzy Byamugisha.
You're welcome.
It's a big pleasure that you've shared your wisdom with us.
Thank you for having me.
And may this conversation be a turning point to somebody.
Amen.
Especially the parents who want the best for their children.
Absolutely.
So how do people find you? For instance, I am a parent. I have my child. Child is not confident.
Yeah.
I go with my child to my friends and the child cannot express themselves.
Yeah.
Yet the father or the mother is...
Yeah.
Man. How would you help them? How do they find you?
LinkedIn, Lindzy Byamugisha. I have an email address. lindbyam081@gmail.com.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
In your journey.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're heading somewhere.
Yes.
Because we believe in transforming followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change.
Of course.
We move together. As you elevate,
you rise with others.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Friends, that is it, that we've had a good conversation. If you've been part of it right from the Genesis up to now, thank you so much. And if you resonate with what we have shared, please feel free to send a comment, contact us, and we shall move forward together. My name is Simon Chris Makanga, and may the good Lord of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob be with you until we meet in another video. But for now, it's a bye-bye. Thank you, Lindzy.
This was good.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.